Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another read aloud story. Today, Murphy decided that he wants to be able to see the story and listen, so he is going to be making a special appearance in today's video. Hopefully, he cooperates. Are you going to be good? Yeah. We'll see. Can you sit? That's a bad spot to sit. Thanks. Today, the story that we're going to be reading thank you, is Chester's Way. And this one is by Kevin Henkes, and it is also similar to the Magic Rabbit one that we read the other day that really talks about the importance of friendship. And so we're going to read about the characters in this story and see how their friendship goes. So, Chester's Way. Chester had his own way of doing things. Hello, my name is Chester. I like croquet and peanut butter and making my bed. For those of you that don't know, croquet is an outdoor game. It's kind of like mini putt, except you have to get the ball through these two archways in your yard instead of a hole. So there's actually a picture of what croquet looks like on the cover, so I'm going to show you the cover real quick so you can see. This is the game of croquet. He always cut his sandwiches diagonally. He always got out of bed on the same side. And he never left the house without double knotting his shoes. Chester always had the same thing for breakfast, toast with jam and peanut butter. And he always carried a miniature first aid kit in his back pocket, just in case. You definitely have a mind of your own, said Chester's mother. That's one way to put it, said Chester's father. Chester's best friend Wilson was exactly the same way. That's why they were best friends. Chester wouldn't play baseball unless Wilson played, and they never swung at the first pitch or slid head first. Wilson wouldn't ride his bike unless Chester wanted to, and they always used hand signals. If Chester was hungry, Wilson was too, but they rarely ate between meals. Some days I couldn't tell those two apart, said Wilson's mother. Me either, said Wilson's father. Chester and Wilson, Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. They loved to go on picnics. Once when Wilson accidentally swallowed a watermelon seed and cried because he was afraid that a watermelon plant would grow inside him, Chester swallowed one too. Don't worry, said Chester. Now if you grow a watermelon plant, I'll grow one too. Chester duplicated his Christmas list every year and gave a copy to Wilson because they always wanted the same things anyways. For Halloween, they always dressed as things that went together, like salt and pepper shakers, two mittens on a string, ham and eggs. They really are two peas in a pod, said Chester's mother. Looks like it, said Chester's father. In spring, Chester and Wilson shared the same umbrella. In winter, they never threw snowballs at each other. In fall, they raked leaves together. And in summer, they reminded each other to wear sunscreen so that they wouldn't burn. Chester and Wilson, Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. And then Lily moved into the neighborhood. Lily had her own way of doing things. I am Lily! I am the queen! I like everything! At this point, I want you to pause the video and I want you to talk about what might happen now that Lily has moved into the neighborhood. Do you think it's going to affect Chester and Wilson's friendship at all? Do you think they're going to become a group of 3? What do you think is going to happen? Pause and discuss. She wore band-aids all over her arms and legs to look brave. She talked backwards to herself sometimes so no one would know what she was saying. I'm Maya Lily. And she never left the house without one of her nifty disguises. Lily waved at all the cars that passed by, even if she didn't know who was in them. And she always carried a loaded squirt gun in her back pocket, just in case. She definitely has a mind of her own, said Chester. That's one way to put it, said Wilson. When Lily asked Chester and Wilson to play, they said they were busy. When she called them up on the phone, they disguised their voices and said they weren't home. If Lily was walking on one side of the street, Chester and Wilson crossed to the other and hid. She's something else, said Chester. Looks like it, said Wilson. I want you to pause the video again, and this time I want you to think about why Chester and Wilson won't play with Lily. And then think about how they're acting and how do you feel about the way Chester and Wilson are acting towards Lily. Do you think they have a reason to act the way that they're acting? Do you think they're making a mistake? Talk about what's going on in the story so far. One day, while Chester and Wilson were practicing their hand signals, some older boys rode by, popping wheelies. They circled Chester and Wilson and yelled personal remarks. Chester and Wilson didn't know what to do. They were just about to give up hope when a fierce-looking cat with horrible fangs jumped out of the bushes and frightened the older boys away. Pause the video again, and this time I want you to talk about who you think could be that person that's dressed up as the cat. Are you who I think you are? Chester asked the cat. Of course, the cat replied. Thank you, Lily, said Chester. You're welcome, Chester, said Lily. Thank you, Lily, said Wilson. You're welcome, Wilson, said Lily. I'm glad you were wearing a disguise, said Chester. And I'm glad you had your squirt gun, said Wilson. I always do, said Lily, just in case. Afterward, Chester invited Lily over for lunch. You have a Muscle Mouse cup? Said Lily. Of course, said Chester. I do too, said Lily. Same here, said Wilson. Chester and Wilson cut their sandwiches diagonally. Lily asked Chester's mother if she had cookie cutters, and she made stars and flowers and bells. That's neat, said Chester. Wow, said Wilson. That night, Lily invited Chester and Wilson to sleep over. You have a nightlight? Said Chester. Of course, said Lily. I do too, said Chester. Same here, said Wilson. Chester and Wilson wanted toast with jam and peanut butter for breakfast the next morning. Boring, said Lily. Try this instead. This is so good, said Chester. Wow, said Wilson. After that, when Lily asked Chester and Wilson to play, they said yes. When she called them up on the phone, they had pleasant conversations. And if Lily was walking on one side of the street, Chester and Wilson waved and ran to catch up with her. Chester and Wilson taught Lily hand signals, and she taught them how to pop wheelies. Lily taught Chester and Wilson how to talk backwards, and they taught her how to double knot her shoes. Some days I can't tell those three apart, said Lily's mother. Me either, said Lily's father. Chester and Wilson and Lily, Lily and Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. For Halloween, they dressed as the three blind mice. For Christmas, Lily gave Chester and Wilson nifty disguises, and they gave her a box of multicolored shoelaces, extra long for double knotting. They loved to go on picnics. When Chester and Wilson told Lily about how they had each swallowed a watermelon seed once, Lily swallowed 3 of them. I'll grow a watermelon plant for each of us, she said. In spring, Chester and Wilson and Lily shared the same umbrella. In winter, they never threw snowballs at each other. In fall, they raked leaves together. And in summer, they reminded each other to wear sunscreen so they wouldn't burn. Chester and Wilson and Lily, Lily and Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. And then Victor moved into the neighborhood. Right now, I want you to pause the video and talk about what you think could happen with this new character, Victor. And then I have 4 other questions that you can talk and discuss when you are ready. The first question I want you to discuss is, what type of character is Chester? And how does he change from the beginning of the story to the end of the story? Question 2 is, what lesson do Chester and Wilson learn about making friends? For the next one, I'm trying to find the right page to be on, so give me just a second. For this next question, I want you to look at the pictures I'm going to show you and think about the things that Chester and Wilson do together and how that's similar or different from the Magic Rabbit book that I read to you the other day. And then my final question is, Chester's mom says that he has a mind of his own, and that is something that is repeated multiple times throughout the book, different characters saying that. So what does that mean exactly, that somebody has a mind of their own? Discuss that, and thank you so much for listening. I will be back in a couple of days with another read aloud. This one was Chester's Way by Kevin Henkes. Bye, everyone.